Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Shaping the Industry. A lot has changed since last year. I have a beard now, and I'm getting help from my friend Ryan, and he's going to be a co-host from now on. And
Hey, what's up, guys?
yep. So, Ryan, why don't you tell everyone about yourself a little bit?
Uh, my name's Ryan Bannigan. I'm a senior here at CU Denver, and I've been playing drums for about 14 years, playing a bunch of different kinds of bands, some jazz bands, some metal bands, and just really interested within the music industry. I'm starting up my own music publishing company and have a few artists on board that I've been talking to for the past couple months. What is going on?
And our guest today is
I
going to
hear
be
something.
is just like some weird stuff going on your computer. Yeah.
Yeah.
And our guest
Too
today
much
is going to
porn.
That's
be
why. That's
Cody, and he
Hello, guys.
recently graduated from CU Denver and has been managing for how long now?
Uh, let's see, about 4 years now, including working with other management companies.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So why don't you
Yeah.
just try to give a brief overview of like your experience managing people?
It's been phenomenal. It's everything that I've wanted and more. I mean, the dream was to be a rock star, but this way I can be with the artists at all times. Sometimes good times, sometimes bad. Um, but it has been phenomenal. You get to experience every single portion of the industry, and you get to help shape a lot of things. And with my case, I really like adding my own creativity into the mix to see if how it can coincide with the artist message. So it's been very rewarding, very stressful, um, and learning a lot of life skills along the way too. So it's the entire package that you could possibly ask for.
Great. Um,
Yeah.
so like you started off wanting to be a rock star, and then what like led you
Yes.
to becoming a manager? I guess like what set you down that
I like
path?
to say by accident,
Yeah.
but it was honestly what, like you said, like I went to see you Denver. I was playing in a punk rock band with a couple other people that went to see you Denver, and by with my drive trying to get my band to be the band that ended the world, I started to realize how important the business side of things was. And I've always been the guy that's been more interested in the biography and how he looked at press photos than how good the song was. And that really showed.
Yeah.
So, um, so we were in an average pop punk band, and I started interning. The first job I had was interning for the Gothic Theater when it was independent from AEG Live. And that showed me how to promote a show. I ended up meeting or having the best boss and the best friend in the world, Danny Sachs over at AEG Live. He's been incredible in building me as a businessman, as well as just shaping my view towards music. And after that, I got an offer to intern at Endit Management, specifically with a band called Devotchka. And I was handling a lot of their day-to-day stuff, not as much as my former colleague Rachel Miller, but I got a taste of what the actual day-to-day experience of working with a band looked like. And from there, I met Barry Faye's son, Tyler. He restarted Fayline about 4 years ago, and he offered me a title that I thought I would never be able to fulfill, which was Director of Artist Management at Fayline, which was a title way more deserving, or not deserving, that's a bad way to put it, way more daunting than anything that I thought. But I filled the role. I just did everything I could. I worked with an act called Skydive, Bass Physics, Samuel J., The Copper Children, Templo, and really was there from almost at the beginning of each act's career. And within a year, they were selling out clubs like the Bluebird. So it's been a crazy ride. And around October, I decided to start my own thing to get back in the rock world because I was working with a lot of EDM, and I felt the need to get back into my rock roots and find stuff that I was not necessarily more passionate about, but stuff that I just would die for, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like I would literally give my left nut for. So it came to the point when I knew I had a lot of contacts in electronic music and I knew exactly the route to success. But the caveat with that was I remember artists were sending me material, and it got to the point where I didn't know if it was good or not. If it was, I remember one person gave me their demo. I listened to it and I was like, "This is awesome, dude! Like, what should we do with this?" My intern looked towards me and he was like, "Dude, this is like electronic made from 10 years ago." And I was like, "Oh." And at that point, I realized management, while you could have all these skills, and I even was in lectures at CU Denver, and I remember a lot of my professors telling me, like, don't always go for the bands you like, go for the bands that are going to make money. That's where, like, you know, the A&R person that discovered Britney Spears hated her music. There's all types of stories of people just recognizing talent and making a shit ton of money. And for me, if I can't have passion behind the project, then nothing else will follow along. I have to be incredibly passionate, incredibly driven for the success of the entire project for me to move anything forward. Otherwise, like, I should have just gone to law school like my parents told me. So,
yeah.
If I was into this to make money, mm-hmm. then I would not be doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And while it is very vital it's very vital to make sure that you're keeping track of finances, looking towards scaling for the band's LLC as a whole, like, you know, no one gets... I think it's a very rare thing for people to get into this for money, especially in today's day and age.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone I know that's like, well, I want to go to music school to make a ton of money. Like, that's the worst idea you could have.
Oh God. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's daunting. You learn more every day, and it's very humbling even talking with really, in the grand scheme of things, minuscule experience comparatively to like people that I've talked to and I continue to work with. So it's very nice to be on here. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. We're both happy to have you on.
So why don't you talk a little bit about like the projects that you're working with now?
So I currently have 4 clients. I have an act called Pandas and People from Fort Collins. They're a folk indie alternative band that's trying to break the monotony of traditional folk with a little bit more of 4 on the floor dance rhythmic stuff and experimenting what you can do with a live show with folk. I work with a band called Aspen Hourglass. They're from Fort Collins as well. I started working with them in October. They are a pop progressive band. Incredible guitarist, Grayson Erhard. He's a percussive if I can say this correctly, percussive guitarist that slaps and like does some crazy shit that I don't know what he does, but it's phenomenal. I also manage his solo project, just Grayson Erhard, and it's some of the most incredible singer-songwriter songs that I've ever heard. And I also work with an act called Staying for the Weekend from Nashville. They are I like to call them a post-punk, post-hardcore band. But really in today's industry, they'd be labeled as an indie band, even though it's punk rock. They just wear flannel and have mustaches instead. But for marketing purposes, indie. But and that band I flew out to see based off of reference from my buddies in a band called Koa. They told me this, like, you have to fucking work with these guys. I was like, okay, I'll fly out. I saw the band and I was just floored. I was like, let me work for you guys, please. And they're phenomenal. Amazing live performance. Like, it's just amazing that I can honestly run a band across the country. I didn't think that was a feasible thing for me for the next couple of years, but it's working, and working with those guys is just phenomenal.
Great. Could you just go through your day to day of what exactly a manager does?
So I know this is a typical answer, but there's no typical day. For example, today in the morning I was setting up meetings for Staying for the Weekend to scout producers for their next record, and that was at 6 a.m. And at 8 a.m. I was advancing a tour for Pandas and People and booking shows and working with our team to get sponsorships. Then I went to KBCO for Pandas and People's in-studio session. And then I was advancing more shows, got solidified meetings with producers, secured a publicist, talking to my attorney about contracts, to show contracts, and then also seeking out sponsors and funding for an album. And then the next day, it could be, it changes literally every single day. You could be talking to labels one day. You could be yelling at on the phone about, a support act that's not selling tickets for a show. You could be dealing with a radio not promoting the show that they sponsored, to doing panels or doing this, and then going to the show and networking relentlessly. So it changes every single day. The unique thing with management is like I said earlier, you experience the entire realm of the music industry. So it's incredibly important to keep up with, upcoming technology, and ways that you can use it to your advantage, and, the entire scope of the industry as a whole, all the way down to the smallest details of why hasn't this band sold consignment tickets? You can go from that to dealing with Warner Chappell, which I actually today. So it's incredibly change. I don't know the best way to put this. It changes every day. It's the best way to sum it up.
Mm-hmm.
Versatile lifestyle.
It is, and it's incredibly important to develop a routine, as crazy as that is, in a lifestyle that in day-to-day tasks that change and evolve incredibly sporadically.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it like? You just touched briefly on working with getting a sponsor for a band. Like, what does that look like on your end?
So
are you cold calling people, or
sometimes it does involve that. I mean, I'm still very young to this game, and a lot of times it is cold calling, and sometimes just showing up to their offices, just like blind. But a lot of times you'll be when you're a manager, you try to see every single situation that you're in and turn it into your advantage. So if you're at a house party, and your friend works for Great Divide. Let's say he just, for whatever, it could be any job. I'll be like, oh, Great Divide. Huh. What could I do with Great Divide? Maybe I can do a custom 6-pack design with a band, and we can release our new album on the 6-pack. It could be that, or that's just one of the ideas. There's a lot of stuff I can't disclose, but it could be that. It could be all the way to a sponsor putting their logo on your van and supplementing some of your fixed expenses for a tour, which is something that you scout out for a lot, especially with an act like Pandas and People. While they haven't really solidified a hard ticket base nationwide, it's incredibly important to get them out on the road, because industry people are looking, and if for them to do anything with your band, you need to get out there and at least show some market presence, even if it completely sucks. So for an agent to do anything, you need to get out there. But the caveat with that is, well, there's really no negotiation on your end that you could come up with to say, my band is worth $1,500 in a market that I've never been to. Can you pay that to us, please? They're going to be really big in the future. And while the idea of that is great, I wish I had that negotiation power, but I don't. And so you have to find other means to supplement those expenses, because you don't want your band going broke on the road. It causes a lot of problems. So you try to find ways to creatively sponsor a band, and a lot of it is going for really truly understanding the aesthetic of the band that you work with, and allowing whatever need that they need covered to coincide with their branding. Because you don't want to go, hey, Metallica, McDonald's wants to sponsor your food, to supplement your food. It'll go great. McDonald's and Metallica go great together. And that, if people saw that, people would be really fucking pissed. But if it's, an indie rock band who thrives on Taco Bell, they're going to be a lot less opposed to, and it doesn't look as strange for a Taco Bell to give a band food. I mean, even like My Body Sings Electric, there's another phenomenal local band. They just did this Taco Bell feed the bands thing or something like that, and they got food provided for their entire tour. And those type of things can really add up and save a band a lot of mental strife and financial strife on a tour that they need to do as a long-term investment.
So what is some of like the most unique like branding or branding that like a band's done to help with tours that you've seen or like helped done?
No. That's a really good question. The best one that I have seen has been the most innovative, or does it have to be a band that I know?
Either one.
No, the most innovative.
Yeah.
I really thought when the Honda Civic tour started up, I think the first one that I can recall was when Blink-182 did it. I think that sponsorship partnership for a tour was really innovative for their time, because I think it coincided with a publishing deal as well. So a lot of the tour dates would coincide with a Honda Civic advertisement. So it was both a publishing deal and a tour marketing thing, and supplemented tour expenses for the entire tour package, not just Blink-182, but the entire bands that were on that tour. So for a band that was opening up, that was lucky enough to secure that opening slot, they were getting some of that money to help supplement their fixed expenses. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was incredibly creative. Technology-wise, not that innovative, but the idea of packaging both publishing and turning that also into an advertisement for yourself, I thought was incredibly strategic.
Cool.
Yeah. It can go all the way down to Sun Squabby, when they, like another band from Colorado, they had, I think, a hash oil that was sponsoring them, that they had their own hash oil that helped supplement some of their tour expenses as well. So I thought that was, especially in markets where marijuana is legal, it's opened up a whole new wave of sponsorship capabilities. And I'm sure there's some legal complications that coincide in states that aren't so open to the idea, like Nebraska, to name one. It's incredibly vital or advantageous, especially to have those sponsorships in place, especially in states that are poised to have that law passed, like in Vermont or Pennsylvania or Washington before it was passed. Like all these places that you could secure a marijuana sponsorship before these laws get passed are instantly in the forefront of an entire movement in economy that's worth a lot of money. So I think that's incredibly advantageous.
Cool. So like back to your bands, or like when you're looking for new bands to manage, what is the quality you're looking for?
You know, I don't think recorded music wise the quality really matters. For me, it's a quality live show that you could see potential and you can see people getting engaged and they just know how to work a crowd, all the way down to how, not even the quality of like their current press photos, their EPK, their any marketing materials. That's stuff that I can do. What I look for is brand awareness. Is a band aware of what they are, what they're trying to accomplish? Because as a manager, you don't want to write their story for you, for the band. Like, right. Otherwise, Backstreet Boys happen. I don't want that happening. Like, I don't want to sit behind and pluck members and tell them to wear a mustache and that they're going to write this song that's going to be written by this artist or this songwriter with this producer. Like, I want them to have a sense of what they are and, some idea of where they're going to be business-wise. Like, not necessarily financially, but we want to be doing 400 cap clubs, selling those out by the end of the year locally in this market. Or we want to be doing, we want to get this sponsorship for this tour because it works. Or, a question that I always ask my bands is like, what is the album about? Or what's this particular record about? Who are you guys as people? Because the first question that, any interviewer is going to ask is, what do you guys do? What are you guys about? What is this song about? They want a story. I remember talking to one of the members from Staying for the Weekend last night, asking him the same questions for this new record. Like, hey, what's it about? And then he starts talking to me about, dude, the first time I ever got a blowjob, dude, to the Arctic Monkeys, I started liking blowjobs. And I was like, what do you mean you just started? And he's like, dude, it's not the same, man. It's not the same. That's the sound. That feeling is the sound of our record. And I was like, that's very vague, but at the same time, that's something I can work with. That's a press story. Like you can even see it on BuzzFeed. 10 minutes or 10 songs to get blowjobs to by Ryan from Staying for the Weekend. That's a story. That's something that people would fucking love. While it couldn't it could, piss some people off, but if it coincides with what they're trying to get across, there's no wrong in that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is no rights or wrongs. It's doing what the right thing for the band at the right time, and using that to coincide with marketing and finding that target audience. Because if you go straight for the mainstream without any core fan group, it's just going to fall flat after 7 years.
Right.
So finding the people that are going to fucking love saying, dude, this guy loves getting blowjobs to the Arctic Monkeys too. That's fucking awesome. Like, that's a rock star. I am all about it. Like, I remember being a kid. The thing that got me into music was looking at weirdos that were doing really cool shit, like Green Day, doing the weirdest fucking interviews ever. And I'd just be on YouTube or any video service just like looking for more interviews because you wanted to connect with that band. And that's the whole point. Is it's not just the songs, it's not just like the video, it's the entire package. Like, a band is more than just their music. They are essentially a brand, while just the terminology brand kind of turns people off, but it's really what it is. It's something for people to connect to past surface level things. Something that'll last longer than 7 years is what I'm striving for. So that's the type of stuff that I try to look for when I'm scoping out new acts. Something that just fucking moves people. I mean, I don't have to like it personally, but if I can see a kid that's like just completely in the zone, and he's sober in the zone, like he doesn't even have to be on drugs to experience a great show, then I'm hooked. Like, I love seeing that reaction from people because I know that's the type of moment that's going to change that person's life. So that's what I look for the potential for that band to change the course of someone else's life. For the better or for worse. It could be either one. As long as it changes someone's life, then I am all about it. The band that ends the world. That's what I'm going for.
The band that ends the world. That's a good quote right there.
Yeah, I totally stole that from my buddy Danny. So, coining it, nice. If he's listening. Yeah.
Okay, so what has made you stand out as a manager above other local guys in Denver, or even some regional, national managers? Like, what made those bands want to work with you above anyone else?
I think for me, it's the first thing is my work ethic. I work all day, all night, doesn't matter where I'm at or who I'm with. If I'm on a date and a band member calls me, I stop the date immediately and take the phone. Or I'll email someone back. It doesn't matter. I'll start at 6 a.m. and I'll work until 5 a.m. if necessary. And that being said, also, I've been very fortunate to have come across people that have expedited my career exponentially, like Danny Sachs being one of them at AEG Live. A lot of people at 7S or Rob Thomas at End It. I've been very fortunate to even have the skills. But I think one of the biggest assets that I think bands really like is I am an artist. I was an artist first. So I understand what they're trying to get across. It's not just business. I can communicate with them on an artist level, but imply the business technicality that I'm trying to get across. And also just relentless networking, and a lot of creativity with the business side as well. Like, I ask the artist what they want, and then we package the marketing plan together. Like, I will do the technical portions and the administrative tasks, but I really want the entire band to give me what they're trying to do. And I think a lot of my artists respect that. If not, I think that they respect that. And I think it's incredibly important for them to know that their message is being heard and not being exploited in a way that is not good for them long term. But and I'm very forthcoming with them. I think that's another thing that they really like is I'm honest. If I can't do something or I don't know what it is, I'll let them know straight up. Like, hey, I don't know, section BA4 of this contract. Let me review it really quick and I'll get back to you. Well, I'll be honest with that, but I'll let them know. I'll figure it out. Rest assured, I'll figure it out. It doesn't matter what it could be. It could be, I really want this marijuana sponsorship. Do you know anything about marijuana? And I'm like, well, I used to smoke it a lot, but I'll find out everything that you need to know about the right marijuana strain for your sponsorship. Like, I'll make sure anything that they need, I will do for them. I even sat down and did all their taxes with a CPA. So the limitations on my services don't exist. And I think that's another thing that they find invaluable. But that being said, there are a lot of great managers in Denver, let alone the entire country. I don't think the one thing I think I do is I don't set hours, and I really do come from an artist side first. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think separates me from a lot of other managers out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, it's that personal touch that you relate with them, that you're a part of the family. You're the fifth member of the band above all else. You know what I mean? That's basically what
much less
what
talented.
You are.
Yeah. Much less
but 3 times the work ethic, right?
I try to set that goal, but it's I think the band has to work just as hard. And a lot of times harder than I do, because if they're not working as hard as I am, then all I'm doing is polishing turds at that point. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the band has to work just as hard as I do, and there's a lot of life skills that go along with just being in this industry. You learn how to communicate, delegate tasks effectively, solve problems, anticipate problems, and network, negotiate, any type of life skill, or setting a routine, financial planning. Like, it's the full package. There's nothing that teaches you more for life than this, as far as I'm concerned. I'm 22. I don't know that much. So, but yeah.
So, like, with your time as a manager, like, what was the point that, like, made you realize this is what you're supposed to do? Like, what makes working a 6 a.m. to 5 a.m. day worth it?
Seeing a sold out show, your band, you're backstage watching. A lot of times I'm the crowd, but seeing a whole sea of people loving your music, engaging, seeing comments on Facebook saying, this band, your songs have changed my life. And while I have very limited of those experiences so far, it just makes all of the mental strife incredibly worth it. Or just seeing the artist just smile so much that they feel embarrassed because they're smiling so much. That type of thing. It's like, it's like, won't fucking stop smiling. Like, they're just like, my dream is coming true. Like, and that's a feeling for me that you can't get anywhere else. And also just like, it might be really tacky, but when you develop a new relationship with somebody, that you can collaborate with and just bounce ideas off of, bitch to. Like that's also incredibly exciting. Like it's a whole new way for you people to look at things and evolve. And I'm addicted to that creative flow of just being able to orchestrate or visualize, encapsulate, and orchestrate a plan and see it to its end. Like you're literally building something every single day, all the way to the grandest scheme of things, and that's a mental flow that I'm completely addicted to, and that's incredibly rewarding in itself. So it's the whole package. I just love every second of it.
Yeah.
Even when everything seems to be going wrong.
So now that we like got the best part of your job out of the way, what's the like most grueling or worst part that you have to deal with?
Communication issues. That's the worst.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and it's happened with every single band that I've ever worked with. And it's always a hurdle. Bands don't like to communicate all the time, and that I'm convinced it's the same portion of your brain that is writing great songs is the same portion of your brain that doesn't will override any sense of administrative or communication or proper communication. So, and it's just finding that balance, and it is sometimes it can be incredibly. It can just feel like babysitting sometimes, and while I don't like to say that about artists because I love them to death, that's what a lot of it is. Also, the 3 a.m. phone calls that you'll get about just a band member bitching about their problems, and while I'm here for them, no matter what, sometimes it can be a little much. It's like, dude, okay, yeah, we get it. Your girlfriend broke up with you. Let's get past it, okay? Like you're just like you're as a manager, you're their therapist, you're their babysitter, you're their motivator, you're their planner, their CEO, but always the cheerleader. So sometimes that can be a little daunting.
So how do you like
to say the least
take care of the communication problems? Do you just assign one band member and like you're going to be the one I talk to, or?
Well, that's generally like a leader within the band. You know what I mean?
It's different with every band. Some bands, yeah, it's best just to go through one person and then they delegate. I don't like doing that because it's very impersonal, and then I think hearing things through the grapevine always leaves room for things to fall through the table rather. And I think that's a very poor way to do it. For me, it's always been looking towards technology and new developments because I nerd out on anything that can help expedite or facilitate processes for me. For me, it'll be 1 week, it'll be Slack. Next week, it'll be a text thread. The next week, it'll be a group me. But continually finding new ways to alleviate the pain in the ass that is daily communication. I just always will try to find a new way because I think there's continuously new programs to help any type of business, and I'd nerd out on it. Like I have a combination of 3 things: email, or rather 4 things: email, text, group me, and Slack, and artist growth and drive. So I have 5 things, but all condensed onto when I open up my computer. Those are the things that pop up. So that's what I do.
Just like to keep track of all of that.
It used to be 50 different tabs with all processes, but I was able, I'm able to do project management into artist growth, drive for storage and collaboration, email for industry, and group me in text and Slack for communication.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So, why did you decide to start your own company and leave Phaline working with a bunch of other managers? And why did you start your own company and want to work for yourself at that point in time?
Well, I still love Tyler, and I love everybody at Phaline, like Angela Jensen and Tom Dudley and Jarrett Roster. I'm not sure who's else is still there. Danny Higginbotham, of course. But for me, it came to the point where I wanted to start making a name for myself as a young manager, and I wanted to see what it was like to work everything from the ground up, from doing literally everything. I didn't want to have to depend on anybody to get things done. And while that's very immature in some circumstances, it allowed me to really value what the entire team did over at Phaline, but also give me the skills for when I end up hiring interns or hiring people to know how to properly delegate tasks, because that was something I was very poor at when I worked at Phaline, was being able to assign things to other people, because there'd be different realms of responsibilities that I didn't know what the hell they did, but I'd just be like, get this done by tonight, and it's like, well, you can't get a tour admin done in 2 hours. Sorry, Cody. Like, it'd be stuff like that. So I didn't understand. The other reason was I really wanted a change of scenery. I was working primarily in EDM, and while working in it allowed me to open my mind a little bit towards other music and meet new people that have helped me substantially in my career. I wanted to get back to my roots because I got into it through punk rock, and I wanted to get back into the rock world where, for one thing, most of my contacts were, and where my passion was there, where it existed and still exists, and to really know the path of what an artist could take to get to that success level. With an EDM act, it got to the point where I didn't know where the ceiling was and how to transcend it. For me, it was speaking of band members calling, I have one right now. But it got to the point where I didn't know where the ceiling was and how I could transcend it. Because for me, I like knowing where the limits are and then figuring out how to get past them immediately. Figuring out how to do things that nobody's done. And for me, it was just sell out 4 nights at Red Rocks and do Terminal West in Atlanta and do 5 nights of that for EDM. And as a manager, you're supposed to be able to anticipate and transcend and fix problems. But if I don't know the solution of where to go past that, or go in realms that make artists uncomfortable, then I shouldn't be in that, responsibly anyway. So that was the reason why I decided to embark on a new journey, so to say. But yeah, and it's been phenomenal. God, it's not even been a year since I've done that, and it's been amazing so far.
Nice. So what is that? I mean, are you full-time, you only manage bands, or do you also have a day job that you're working as well right now?
Also work a day job.
Man, how do you manage both? sounds insane.
Well, what I found out was you have to find. For me, it was finding a a day job that would supplement, that I could work on my business while I was working on my real business, or working at a business that allowed me to do my real business.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was like, okay, UPS. I could ship out merch orders from online stuff. I can have my business mailbox here. Whenever it's slow, I can check emails. I can print stuff off. I can do graphic design. I can, and everything that I need is, at that store.
Mm-hmm.
So, finding ways to make an hourly wage while working on your business is incredibly helpful. But it's also incredibly, I have to work twice as hard at the business outside of work to make sure that I'm always ahead for the chaos to ensue, because there's nothing that'll prepare you for 20 calls at once while you're at your job, and you have to say, I have to step out for a second. Like, I do all that preparation so I don't have to get the call.
Yeah.
Or try to limit those calls as much as possible while I'm at the day job.
Mm-hmm.
So I can always focus on progressing rather than retroactively fixing things.
Okay. So you said you oh, go ahead.
So what are some examples of just like complications that you didn't see ahead that you ran into when starting your own business?
Oh man. I mean, for one thing, taxes was huge. While I was at CU Denver, I mean, it was incredibly helpful for me to learn how everything worked. It did not give a glimpse in music entrepreneurship, if that makes sense, while I was there anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of things about running a business that I had to learn out on my own, which was like, you have to report quarterly. You have to, see how to scale your a music business properly to sell to other people. You know what I mean? There's scaling, there's investment opportunities, how to scale what the investors are, to all the way down to hiring interns. That's something that I never thought I would be doing, and filling out the paperwork and making sure that, a lot of it, you're following employee codes, you're following the guidelines, making sure that the interns are having a great experience. That's stuff that I never foresaw being a huge issue, but as an advocate for employees' rights and students' rights specifically, I really, wanted to make sure I had everything properly allocated for me to be able to ethically work with interns. And it turns out I don't have those at the moment. But being able to provide experiences in a good work area for people coming along is something that I'd never thought would be so daunting, but it really is. And I'm still learning more and more about it. And hopefully it'll get to that point within the next couple months.
Mm-hmm.
But that is something that I never foresaw coming at all. But like I said, like in the music industry, you're learning pretty much everything. It's not just getting Coke for the band. It's you're learning so much more to like hiring interns. Like when you do your Christmas vacation and you see your parents for the first time in a couple months, you're like, so what have you been doing? Oh, I'm hiring interns. They're like, what? For a band? Like, Yeah, for a band. Yeah, exactly. They just don't. There's just a lot of elements that I'm continuously learning. That and think one of the other areas where I didn't foresee any issues was probably touring and routing specifically. You, as probably common sense as this sounds, I'm so geographically challenged that I just thought, yeah, just route all the fucking dates we can. Doesn't matter if it, East Coast, yeah, totally. You can do New York to Nashville in a day. We can do it. Like, I never foresaw that being an issue, as common sense as that sounds. But you, especially when you're a manager starting out with a new act that isn't touring without an agent, you're booking all those shows unless you live in New York and California where it's illegal to do so. So being really good at routing has been incredibly hard, and with that also being able to coordinate each member's schedules into a tangible form in a certain amount of time, but being flexible to whatever the venue has to offer with both deals and their time frame. That's something that I thought would be much easier said than done, but it's incredibly difficult. So I have the utmost respect for agents. They know what the fuck is up. So, yeah.
You should go a little deeper into that.
Into routing. What specifically?
What you just said about working with each member's schedule and then the agents themselves with the venue that you were just talking about.
So when you're routing like a tour, especially for a new band, you'll have a date range, but you have to have anchor dates in place. So you'll find the markets where your band is the strongest, and if the band's never toured outside of their hometown, it's going to be going straight online, finding the most analytics you can, coming up with a pitch email that you use for pretty much every buyer, and then waiting and making sure that a lot of musicians have day jobs, so you have to make sure that they are well coordinated and that they have the time off and that they can, or just ditch it completely, and coordinating with each member to make sure that they can get the dates after the venue comes back and says, hey, I've got this available, and this available for X amount of dollars, or door deal. And you could say, okay, well, does this work? You have to circle back to the band, get approval from each one of the members, circle back to the buyer, say, okay, we can do that. We'll put a hold in. And then you have to get a whole bill together. You have to reach out for local support if the buyer's not willing to find the local support. And then get a bill together, solidify the hold before someone else steals it from you. Because there's a lot of bands that will be ready with a whole tour package, ready to steal that date from you. And then route it. And then make sure that it is it feasibly works with their schedule. Like I said, I was, in the past, I've assumed getting from New York to Nashville in 2 days was a totally feasible thing. And it is, but it's not fair to the bands. But sometimes you have to do whatever those venues can provide, and if it's and while at the same time making sure that it works with their schedule. If the band can only go out for 2 weeks and they want to do an East Coast run, well, they're going to have to jump ship really quick and not hit as many of those markets on the East Coast, and go to the ones that they actually have anchor dates on and build the route around that. And like I said, I have the utmost respect for agents. It's incredibly hard. As an upcoming band, you don't have any negotiation power for solidifying holds. the moment that another bigger band with better draw comes in, you're going to lose that hold if you don't have your shit together.
Yeah.
So making sure that your band members are communicating as soon as you do have a date rate or possible dates given to you by the buyer is incredibly important. So, yeah, does that kind of cover your question a little bit?
Yeah, that was more than sufficient.
Sure.
So,
One sec.
kind of
Go for it.
stepping outside of like the management realm, where do you see the music business going in the next 5 to 10 years in Denver?
Oh man, I think a lot more live music specifically, or
just overall.
I think there's going to be more consolidation of, even more than it is today, of centralized promotion. I think there's going to be more agencies out here. Madison House absolutely crushes, but I think this has become such a hub for electronic and jam and bluegrass, and really now alternative rock as well, that I think you're going to start seeing more of a music square, music row type of feel in the art district, with more agencies and more music corporate offices down here. For one thing, because the population's booming. We've got more venues per capita than anywhere else in the country. And I really would like to see more publishers here. I'm glad that you're starting one, Ryan. So that's pretty sweet. We used to have Lyric House here. I think it'd be incredibly advantageous for that. And I also think with this tech industry booming here, I think you're going to see a lot more local bands getting featured and working with these tech companies, which is going to be huge.
So what do you mean by that?
Especially in downtown. I mean, there's so many apps, there's so many startup companies that I think those upcoming companies that don't have a lot of money right now are going to be looking for potential ways to work with our marketing team to find the best way, most cost-effective, hip way to find a target audience to launch their product. And I think they're going to start working with a lot of local groups from here because we have killer live music or local music. So I think you're going to see a lot more partnerships in that realm. It could be from an app. It could be from, marijuana. You see it with any industry that starts booming in Denver. They start working with artists like that, especially if it has anything to do with entertainment. So that's where I see it headed in the next couple of years, which is good. Overall, the population booming here, very bad for traffic, very good for bands and entertainment.
Mm.
Yep.
So what do you think is like the way local bands can kind of break this scene? Because I've heard Denver be described as a island where it's Denver and then there isn't anything else around us music-wise. How do you break through that?
I think it's destroying faces here, and by that I mean you can sell out the Bluebird on your own. That's always the best milestone here. As with the island theory, I think that's totally correct, in that there is no major market from here for 8 hours minimum drive. However, we're strategically located in smack dab in the middle of the country, so that all the touring bands have to come through here. But if you're a band, Denver is unique in the fact that we have AEG Live here, who owns several, of the clubs, and with a lot of influence with some of the even dive bars here. And they build bands up, and if a band has the ability to continually develop and bring more people as they progress, they're going to start being offered support slots for national bands. And as soon as you hit that stride, then agents start to take notice. And then it's just exponential from there. And I think that kind of goes along with island theory, in that if you can secure this market, the potential for you to expand and start building a hard ticket market in the next area is a lot easier because of that influence of AEG Live working with some of the biggest bands in the world. I mean, like for me today, like, 1975 is playing Red Rocks tonight. We're right after, like, our Studio C session today with Pandas and people is right after theirs. So you're constantly seeing huge bands right after local band, like, and right after that is a local band. So the potential for you to continually grow and just secure a national presence by being, I call it peer-to-peer association, with bigger acts is limitless. You can just on relationships alone, you could secure a tour without even building a hard ticket base, just because you happen to have met, the singer from the 1975 or something. We're incredibly lucky in that fact. I mean, not many developing markets like ours have that capability and have corporate offices like AG Live, Live Nation, iHeartRadio, all in one place. So it's a lot easier to have that, jump that island theory and expand it into other markets. If that answers your question.
No, yeah. I think that was a good way of putting it. How do you think, like, Denver is either going to grow, like, how will it be different when compared to, like, Nashville or LA or New York? Like, our music scene as a whole and just the vibe within the next, like, 5 to 10 years. Do you think we'll ever get to that point? And
I think so.
Are we going to be different from those cities?
For one thing, personality. I think each city has their own personality from my experience. New York is very hardcore. They are go-getters, and it's a lot more, much more aggressive, much more fast-paced. Nashville has the incredible influence with publishing and publishing record labels and studios with reputable producers. Denver right now, amazing live market. Some of the most professional bands and buyers I've worked with are here. LA, I would say, is a lot more salesmanship. You're constantly they're constantly plugging something, but very high pace, very fast pace as well. I think the difference for Denver right now, like I said, incredible live market, but I think it'll continue to expand with, I hope, publishing, and I hope with that also bringing in more corporate agencies. And I think you're going to see that as the EDM explosion continues to grow and the jam scene. I hope we start seeing some alternative bands and alternative agents start coming over here. But at the moment, I think the scene's growing. In terms of the big wigs, as I like to say. So, but with jam and EDM, like, this is like the number one place to be. Like, you don't want to be anywhere else with electronic music, as far as I'm concerned. You have the top agents in the entire country. You have, Jake Schneider at Madison House destroying faces every single day with new festivals like that Vertex Festival that he worked with Don Strasberg on, AEG Live, with one of the best festival lineups as far as I'm concerned in the entire country. Who has Tedeschi Trucks Band, Alabama Shakes, and Odessa as some of the headliners. That's giant bill.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
It's nuts. And obviously we have Red Rocks. And I think we have some of the best clubs in the country. I think you'll start to see a lot more national attention towards those as more and more bands start to break from here. But it seems like every single year there's a new act from here that's just killing it. Nathaniel Rateliff broke through the mainstream last year, and and we have the Lumineers with the #1 iTunes or charting iTunes album. We have a fantastic metal scene. I think you're going to continually see more and more development in our live shows as well. As strong as it is, I think you're going to see more and more people headed out to each scene. If you love punk rock, you're going to see a sold out Potato Pirate show at the Gothic. If you love bluegrass, go down to Cervantes. There's going to be a sold out show there. But I think every scene you're going to start seeing more and more pick up, and it's just going to be a great base to cultivate and build bands.
So with the show, we kind of do a topic of the week. And since you're on here and, you own your own business and you run all these bands, we thought a good topic for this week would be, if you were to talk to someone and you were to describe whether or not they should start their own business or work for someone else, what would you say for someone starting in the industry, coming fresh out of college or something along those lines?
Start doing. Don't talk, do. That's a very short answer, but what I mean by that is you could know all the information, but until you start doing and acting, you won't know anything. Because you could have the education, but the experience is vastly different from knowledge to practice, and things aren't perfect. They aren't wrapped up in a nice little package. You can plan, you can have all the information, but unless you have a grasp on the situation by doing, none of that preparation really matters, because a lot of it's who you are, who you know, and what your resources are. So a lot of the information that I learned from school either is outdated or I had to learn a new strategy to use in my particular circumstance.
Okay.
That's probably what I would say. Also, relentlessly network. Be at every single show. Know all the people at Great Divide. Know all the people at AG Live. Know all the agents. Continuously network. If it's email, if it's sending out a care package to someone you barely know, then and you do it in a creative way, just constantly making new relationships. Also, like you said, like I said earlier, keeping on top of tech trends, figuring out what's going to be the next thing for you to be able to use for your company or anything like that. For me, I wanted to start expand as soon as I saw that you could do 360-degree videos. I immediately started wanting to do 360-degree music videos for my bands, being on top of those trends, or virtual reality. I knew as soon as just looking at the stock market, not just looking at the music industry, but expanding into in tech and being very worldly and balanced, well balanced in your with the information that you get, because a lot of people know how things are in music, but it's the people, young people particularly, that learn how to use new things that will shape what happens in the future. And we constantly see that. I mean, tech will influence long-lasting music industry, um, production
Yeah, I think
forever.
that's like a pretty interesting thought because, like, if you look at the music industry in the past, like